When people say you changed, what they often mean is that you stopped being convenient. Let that sit for a second, because somewhere out there, an old ghost from your past is telling people a very interesting story about you. They're shaking their head dramatically, sighing like a disappointed movie character, and saying something along the lines of, "Yeah, they changed." As if you suddenly woke up one morning, drank a mysterious potion, and transformed into a completely different human being overnight. But here's the funny part. The same people who swear you changed usually can't explain what exactly changed. They just know something feels different. The energy is different. The access they used to have to you is gone. The version of you that tolerated nonsense, carried emotional baggage that wasn't yours, or stayed small to keep everyone comfortable. That version quietly retired, and history actually backs up this strange pattern. There's a well-documented psychological tendency called status discomfort. When someone rises in confidence, success, or self-respect after leaving a certain environment or group, the people from that old environment often reinterpret the change as arrogance or personality shift. Not because the person truly became worse, but because their new boundaries disrupt the old relationship dynamic. In other words, the moment you stop playing the role people assign to you, the script suddenly becomes a problem. Think about it. When you were struggling, they called you humble. When you started winning, they called you different. When you were always available, you were loyal. The moment you became selective with your time, suddenly you changed. It's almost impressive how quickly some people can rewrite the story. One minute they're watching you glow up from a distance, the next minute they're acting like historians of your personality. And the truth is, old ghosts have a very special talent. They remember the version of you that made them comfortable, not the version of you that finally learned your worth, not the version of you that stopped apologizing for existing, not the version of you that outgrew situations that were quietly draining the life out of you. No, they remember the earlier chapter, the chapter where you were easier to access, easier to influence, easier to keep in a box labeled, "They'll always be this way." But here's the twist nobody talks about enough. Most glow-ups don't happen because everything went right. They happen because something ended, someone left, or sometimes you finally walked away. And when that separation happened, something strange occurred. Instead of collapsing like people expected, you started evolving. Your thinking sharpened, your confidence strengthened, your life expanded. You began moving differently, choosing differently, seeing things you used to ignore. Which leads to a realization that hits some people like a plot twist they didn't see coming. You didn't become a different person. You became less available for what no longer deserved you. And that is exactly why old ghosts are still whispering, "They changed." Most of the time when someone says you changed, they're not talking about your personality. They're reacting to the fact that their old privileges with you suddenly expired. The version of you they remember is the version that allowed certain behaviors to slide. The version that kept the peace, tolerated the disrespect, overlooked the manipulation, or kept giving people chances long after those chances should have run out. Back then, everything felt comfortable for them. They could say things without consequences. They could disappear and come back when it suited them. They could push boundaries and expect you to stretch your patience just a little further each time. And the truth is, when someone benefits from that kind of arrangement, they don't see it as taking advantage. To them, it simply becomes normal. Then something shifts. One day you stop laughing off things that used to bother you. You stop explaining yourself repeatedly. You stop rushing to fix situations that other people created. You begin answering with clarity instead of emotional exhaustion. And suddenly, the dynamic that used to favor them is gone. That's when the famous line appears, "You changed." But look closely at the timing. Nobody complained about you changing when you were constantly giving, constantly forgiving, constantly adjusting yourself to make everyone else comfortable. The complaints only start when the access changes, because what they really lost wasn't you as a person. They lost the ability to treat you the way they once did. Boundaries have a strange effect on people who are used to unlimited access. To someone respectful, a boundary looks normal. To someone who benefited from your lack of boundaries, it looks like rejection. They interpret your self-respect as attitude, your clarity as hostility, and your distance as betrayal. But the real transformation wasn't that you became a different person. The transformation is that you finally recognized what you were allowing. And once someone recognizes that, the old arrangement can never quietly return. So when old ghosts say you changed, they're actually revealing something about the past. They're admitting that the earlier version of you was easier for them to manage, easier to influence,